iHeartRadio Broadway, driven by Mercedes-Benz. The best or nothing.
Warren, Drew, Sierra, Adam, thank you so much for joining iHeartRadio Broadway today.
Thank you.
So we are here to talk about an amazing opportunity that is coming through with Broadway on Demand. It is the Secret Garden workshop and live stream experience, May 6th through the 9th. And it is the workshop of the pre-Broadway revival of the Secret Garden. And Warren, when you found out that Marcia and Lucy really wanted to make this live stream of the lab available, what was your first thought? What was your first reaction?
I was excited about it. I have to say, I love the show. I'm madly in love with the show, and I'm madly in love with the people. And the thought, workshops never get shared. They just never get shared. And in some cases, they never should be. And this one, I think it's okay to share it. I'm slightly terrified about, personally, people seeing my work before I'm finished. And the actors are so brilliant and brave enough to say, you know what? It's okay. They can see us in process. It's this kind of great sneak peek behind the scenes. It's almost like a documentary, except we were lucky enough to capture it on 2 different cameras from 2 different angles. So we've got the footage is actually really high quality. We've cut it together, I think, in a beautiful way. So I'm all right. I'm gonna bite my tongue and say I'm fine with people seeing it for the first time in history, because I don't think anyone's ever streamed a rehearsal in this way or shown an audience what it takes to make a Broadway show. So I'm excited to share that. And I'm excited to raise some money for the Actors Fund and the Dramatists Guild Foundation.
And I want to say, I think it's an amazing thing for people to be able to witness what a lab and what a workshop and what a rehearsal process looks like. We don't always get to see how it's made, how we all go to work every day and see the backstage process of it. So Sierra, you've also been attached to this show in some way in your career for a really long time. You figure between the revival potentially coming to Broadway, I got to see you do the concert at Lincoln Center. What is it about The Secret Garden that is just such a beloved show? I told you before we started, it's my favorite musical of all time.
I think it's mine as well. It's the show that I listened to. I had the cassette tape that I wore out. And for me, obviously, Rebecca Luker was it, that voice. She was the voice before I knew the person. And no one has breath control like she did. And so it's this ethereal thing. But what I love about the show is that it is literally teaching us that we aren't here on this planet alone, that nature is saving us, and that the spirit world is helping us. So it's this, like, it's beyond just, I think it's one of the most beautiful scores that I've ever heard and ever sung before. And I literally go to it all the time because there's something about it. It's like soul music. But then the message of the show too, that's like, we cannot do this alone, and that we have to be connected, and that nature is literally teaching us. It just doesn't get, I don't know, it doesn't get more powerful than that. And so that's why I think there's so many elements of this show that makes people, why they love it so much, and maybe don't even realize on a subconscious level.
I just want to sort of dovetail on what Sierra was saying and just say when Warren called and asked me if this would be okay, I was filled with all of the sort of fears that Warren was talking about, seeing something that's very much in process that was never intended to be publicly consumed. But I was thinking about the show, and I was thinking about how the themes of the show, what Sierra was talking about in terms of nature healing us, and it's so necessary right now. It feels like such an important thing to sort of bring into the conversation, a conversation that sort of is already being had. As we as an industry take this time, this pause, we as a world take this pause to sort of reflect on what we want. I don't mean to fetishize the pandemic and all of the grief that it brings. But you know, it's a great moment to sort of take stock of what we have, who we are, and how we want to move forward. And I think this show is all about that. It's all about how to move forward, how to heal. And so, you know, it to me, it just felt like such a natural thing, such a natural sort of sound voice to bring into the space.
Very hopeful. That's what I think about it. It's such a hopeful, if I had something that I would want the audiences to take away, there's a real feeling of hope. You know, the story is told from a little girl's point of view, Mary Lennox's point of view. And we were really careful that we always put the camera from her point of view. We told the story from her point of view, you know, and it's a found family. It's a mixed family in the best possible sense of that word. In the way we'd have a mixed garden. It's not just one flower or one color. Everything is mixed, everything is found, everything is created. And it's extremely, extremely hopeful. I think the story is massively hopeful. And I would hope that audiences would have a kind of hunger for that kind of story where you can bring a family to see this. And I hope it's gonna land in a really good time.
Well, and I'm also glad you said, you know, the found family. I think, especially during this time when we have been away from our families and you have your found family wherever you are. You know, I'm by myself in New York and I have my New York City family of friends. So I do feel like there is that message of your family is not just biological, it's who you also find in life as well. And I think that is such a huge part of The Secret Garden. And I do feel like the show brings that hopefulness to us and what we are looking for right now. The other thing I will say is this show has created such iconic musical theater characters between Lily, but Dickens, I think, is one of the most iconic musical theater characters and also gives way to some of the most beautifully written music. Drew, you being able to perform, I think, the best male duet in musical theater history with Lily's Eyes with Clifton. I got to watch the video on YouTube. It's a beautiful rendition between the two of you. And I'm just curious, the privilege, I personally would find the privilege of being able to perform that today is amazing, but I'm not going to take your words out of your mouth. How was it to perform
to
that?
Your point. No, to your point, I think all of that kind of ends up coming in together. It's going to be really exciting to watch something happen that we captured several years ago. And what's going to be interesting about the audience getting to observe essentially this workshop process is I'm fairly certain I'm going to be in the background of every shot, just kind of like
You are
watching my friends sing this beautiful and incredible music. And it's like everyone else on this chat right now. I've been a fan of the show as long as I've been a fan of musicals, and to get to have the experience, not only of my memory of watching Adam and Sierra and Ali and Matt and Clifton just crush this music and bring such a beautiful story to life. I now get to re-experience something that was captured that I thought just lived as a kernel in my mind, that now we get to kind of see and re-experience and remember that when one does a show, it's a different form of chosen family. And you kind of end up going on a ride with a group of people that wouldn't necessarily find themselves all in the same room at the same space together. So it's going to be neat to see that happen.
I can't wait for you to see it. Actually, I can't wait for you guys to see it. It's one of my favorite things about being able to share it, because it would sit in my cupboards for the next decade until Lincoln Center ask for it, or eventually we find a home for it. So I'm actually really thrilled that you're gonna get to sit home and just kind of see it and feel it too and experience it. It's very moving. It was amazing to kind of go back 3 years later and revisit it and just look at it again. What we've done this time is we've inserted into the footage, I've inserted the scenic renderings. So as you're watching along, as you're watching the workshop, in the transitions, we crossfade to Jason Sherwood's astonishing designs and the music continues under, and then when we arrive, the actors crossfade through it and we're in the next scene. So the audience actually will get a sense of the design of it, they'll get a sense of the tone of it, because it's quite different from the original. This imagining is quite different.
And Warren, you have three of the most amazingly talented people sitting here in this Zoom with you, but you also have other talented members of this cast. So Amber Amon, who would have been with us, but there's terrible weather in Georgia right now. The rest of the cast in this workshop is unbelievable. Was this the dream casting choice for you to work with this workshop?
Yeah, I got all the people that I wanted. I got all the good ones and I put them in a room together, and we found a way to tell the story. No, it just was, every single person was the dream person for me, and we had a dreamy time. It never ever happens like that, but by some miracle this time we were all just in a good place. It's funny, there was not I don't remember a single bump. Normally there's something, or there's some personality or some moment that's crunchy. We had 3 weeks to work on it. There were no crunchy moments. We all knew it was important. We all were so desperate to tell the story and so desperate to do it for our generation. It just seemed like it just worked out.
And for Sierra, Adam, and Drew, I know with such a beloved musical that has already had a Broadway life, a regional life, to reimagine a character in a revival where you're not doing the same thing Rebecca Luker's doing or the original cast, is there freedom in that for the three of you as actors to create something new, or do you get a little intimidated with having to recreate these characters from scratch?
I think it was really exciting. It's exactly what Warren said. And first we got to love on Warren a bit, because literally he united all of us. We were all on the same page because this is the story that we all love. And you talked to us from the get-go. So we had like our leader that's like, here's what we're actually doing. And this garden is completely different than any garden that anybody's ever seen before. And so we were all on the same page, and we all love this story. We all love this score. It's impossible not to love it. And so being on that page, we're not actually there was nothing that we're trying to recreate from what has happened before. So I felt, and Warren and I talked a lot about with Lily, because she's dead, but she is fully present. And we talked about, how do I get that Clifton playing Archibald? How do I get him to see me? How do I get Mary to the door to help her? How do I figure this out? How do I get my son out of bed? It's like, it makes us weak. And it's like, and I can't do anything. And that's why also I feel like it's just such an emotional thing. So that's from my perspective. It was very freeing, because the only thing that's the same is the score. The music is the same. Other than that, we're recreating. I mean, we're doing it.
Sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off, but Adam and Drew, the same question to either of you.
I remember Warren called me a tadpole in it. And so I just thought about him, Dickon being an expression of the earth. He's just part of, is sort of integrated into the idea of Jason's set, just like a vine or like a branch or something like that. And so that's sort of my angle on it. And then I honestly, am I allowed to say this? I was just thinking, like, what would John Cameron Mitchell do in this scene? And then I would do that.
Fair.
It's much more, I love John Cameron Mitchell, but it's much more you than it is him. It's really unique, Adam. And I had a chance the other day to talk to Lucy and Marsha. We did a little on-camera chat about the show, and they talked again and again and again about Dickon. They talked again and again about how surprising. The tadpole came up. Marsha, so I asked them if they were a character in The Secret Garden, who would they be? Marsha. And then I answered it for them, and I said, Marsha, you are Dickon. And she was like, I know the tadpole dance, the tadpole thing, where he's like making love to the floor. She was like, that's me. And then I said to Lucy, then you are Lily. You are of the air. You float when you walk. And she was like, exactly right. And then of course, Drew has the hardest role in the whole show.
I'm the immovable object. It's like
Yep.
for all of this ethereal energy and all of this beauty and growth and change, there has to be a resistance to that in order for everybody to get a win. So the hard part is I yell at a lot of children. But the fun part is that I get to kind of, he too gets to eventually be moved, because even the most immovable objects eventually get weathered and changed over time. And was something that was really beautiful and fun to explore.
Well,
I think it was really hard. I do think, Drew, you had the hardest task in all of it. I think it's really hard to play the bad guy like that, and to not just play one color of it, you know, one just like dark streak of badness. I loved watching you navigate that. I really loved it. I loved watching you in Clifton. I loved watching how much you love Sierra. I thought that was heartbreaking. Never before had seen that or felt that kind of lifted out of the story. You know, that's Lily's eyes. I mean, he's singing the same song as Clifton. Like he loves her too. And all of those things, I thought you were so super, Drew. It's a really hard task. And I just thought you were magnificent. Can't wait for people to see you, because it's really wonderful and really unexpected and finely drawn and nuanced. I never said it in the lab, but well done.
Thanks, Warren.
I literally cannot wait to watch this with everybody else. I'm so excited. Warren, I know this workshop was 3 years ago. There's been talk of a Broadway revival for, I feel like, ever. Is there a plan for this, hopefully down the road, to be in a Broadway theater?
Yeah, I would love that. I think we'd all love that. Yeah, there's no reason that it shouldn't be. There's no reason that it shouldn't have a home. It's such a beautiful classic story. And, you know, these scenes are really great. Marsha has written an incredible book. She's like a rocket scientist, that brain, and she's sharp as a scalpel. And Lucy's music is so emotional. And this production is really beautiful to look at. There's no reason that it shouldn't find a home. And I tend to, whenever I dream, I tend to dream of a Broadway proscenium arch anyway. So even if it is filmed or becomes something else or goes somewhere else for a minute, my landing pad is always going to be on a Broadway stage, always, as with these people.
I really just want the next generation of musical theater lovers to fall in love with this musical as much as we have, because I feel like they deserve that. I feel like they deserve to experience it like we all have experienced it for however long the show has been in existence.
Well, can you imagine being in the theater and watching a grandmother who's taken her daughter and then that lady taking her child? Like, the generations of women, and not exclusively women, but of women that are able to bring their daughters and their sisters to see this. This is that's what I look forward to, actually, is I look forward to adding another generation to that line of people who have fallen in love with this.
Well, I want to plug it one more time. It's the Secret Garden workshop and live stream experience, Broadway on Demand, May 6th through 9th. You can go to Broadway on Demand to buy your tickets. There are various packages where you can be a part of some Q&As, some VIP experiences. But I want to stress, please buy a ticket. I guarantee you will not be disappointed with this production. It's going to be amazing. So Warren, Sierra, Adam, Drew, thank you so much for joining iHeartRadio Broadway with me today.
Thank you so much for having us.
All right, cheers.
iHeartRadio Broadway, driven by Mercedes-Benz. The best or nothing.